Look at another section in Psalm 119 tonight, verses 65 through 72. Blessing of affliction. Now, we saw last week in the section on Psalm 119, the previous section, that God is our portion. We talked about how that means like a fortified city or a landed estate, a very safe place to be. But there are times in our lives when we have to wonder why God allows bad things to happen to us. Why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Well, sometimes God causes bad things to happen to bad people, and it just so happens that good people are involved around bad people at times. But in many cases, we err. God chastises us, and in that chastisement, we suffer some affliction. So in our text today, David explains why everything God does for us is good, even if it is affliction, even if it's something that is bad that He allows to come upon us. It is for our good. Now, he starts off by telling us that God deals well with His servants. God simply does. You have dealt well with your servant, O Lord, according to your word. Teach me good judgment and knowledge, for I believe in your commandments. Now, just because we believe in God's commandments doesn't mean we always keep God's commandments. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we need a little bit more encouragement to be faithful. In other words, we need a little bit of failure in our lives now and then, like the Apostle Paul needed that thorn in the flesh, so that we can recognize that, no, we cannot do it on our own. So that affliction that comes, those times when we recognize our weaknesses, as we've looked at the last couple of weeks, those handicaps that are there that we try to overcome, the weaknesses that we attempt to strengthen in our lives, those are the things that are there that are telling us that we really do need the grace of God in our lives. We need God working in our lives simply because we cannot do it on our own. We need that strength, we need that power in our lives. So the Word of God is consistent in its intent and in its intention, what it's designed to do, purpose we might even say, to do good for God's children. That's what the Bible's there for. The Bible isn't there to hold us back from anything good. It's there to hold us back from things that are evil, things that are bad, things that would harm us. Excuse me. Even when things seem to be going wrong, we have to realize God's in control. When things are going wrong, when it seems things are out of control, we know that God is still in control. There's something wrong in our lives. Right. Like a radio station, right? You're driving along in your car and you start losing a radio station. Well, what's the problem? Well, it's the radio station, right? No, it's because you've moved out of that radio station's area. You got to find a new radio station or move back into that area. Well, that's the way it is with God. If we move out of His area, we're not going to be receiving His communication the proper way that we should. But we know that God's in control. It's just we've moved outside of His control. In the same way, we know that God is still good. God never ceases to be good. If we are not experiencing God's goodness, then it's because we are not looking at things the right way, or we've actually strayed away from God, strayed away from His goodness. We've moved into some bad things that are causing harm in our lives. And we should always know that God is still working. Yeah, that radio station's still on. It's just we're not receiving it. Well, God is always working. He's working behind the scenes providentially. He's going to make things come out good. You've got to remember He's there. He's working all things together for good. To those that love Him, to those who are called according to His purpose. We've got to be loving Him, and we've got to be answering that call to His purpose. Now, a great example of this, think of Joseph in the Old Testament. Talked about him before, and think about what went on in his life. Number one, he was his father's favorite, even though he wasn't the oldest. Usually the oldest was the favorite, right? Because he's going to get the double portion. They carry on the family name and all of that. He wasn't the oldest, he was the next to the youngest, but he was the oldest of the beloved wife, Rachel. He was the favorite of his father and was given the coat of many colors. Now, that coat of many colors, a lot of scholars agree today that that is like he was becoming the patriarchal priest for the family, for that next generation. Just as Jacob would be the worship leader for the family, for his generation, Joseph would be the worship leader, the one who would be like the priest, the one who would be the intermediary between God and man, for that family, serving as a priest for that family. And the coat of many colors would distinguish that, much like the high priest garments later on when the law came about, much like the priest garments. Now, they weren't like the high priest garments, but they were different, and they were like a uniform that designated these individuals as someone special. So that was for Joseph very early. But you notice what happened with Joseph. Joseph was a dreamer, right? And he had some dreams, but he told his family about his dreams, right? I dreamed this happened, which means my brothers are going to bow down to me one of these days. That made them angry. Even though it was the truth, even though it was a true prophecy, it made them angry. And not only that, another dream where even his father was bowing down to him. And that upset his father also. So they hated him. Not his father, but his brothers hated him. And they sold him into slavery. Slavery. He's tempted by his master's wife. And when he won't accept the temptation, she lies about him and he's thrown into prison. And he suffers a great deal in prison. He's there for like 12 years. You realize, if you read the story, you may not recognize it. He's in prison for 12 years. And while he's in prison, God's still got this plan. God's got a purpose for him. God's still working behind the scenes. He's bringing all the loose ends together eventually. And after prison, after he finally, remember, things have to work out, God kind of makes him second in command in Egypt, kind of like the prime minister of Egypt, Pharaoh's right-hand man. And he ends up saving that nation from starvation and making it the richest nation on the face of the earth, the most powerful nation on the face of the earth. You think, well, why would God allow something like that to happen to the enemy, Egypt? It was for the salvation of Joseph's family, wasn't it? Because they were starving to death up in Canaan, up in what was to be the promised land. So when the brothers come down to buy food so that they won't starve to death during this famine, Joseph is there to be able to sell them food. Even though they don't recognize him, he recognizes them. And he hatches a little plot. It seems like in a little while, it's vengeance taking hold and whatever. But eventually, as he reveals himself, he makes it known that This was God's plan. It all worked out, and the things that he suffered was for the good of everybody. That affliction that he was suffering, God had a plan and a purpose for him. At times, God's word may be a little bit strange to us, but it tells us that we can depend upon God to make things right if we will remain faithful. And even as Revelation 2:10 says, be faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. It's hard to remain faithful through affliction, isn't it? Because where's God? Where is he? With his providence, he is there. So David, in this psalm, understands that without affliction, he probably wouldn't get done the things that he needed to get done. And without affliction, David probably would not have repented and turned back to God. God will deal with us through affliction. That's just one of God's tools. He'll let Satan have his way with us for a little while. You know, there's a passage, I think there's a couple times things kind of like this are mentioned in the New Testament. Think about Peter. And Jesus telling Peter, Satan wants to play with you just like a wheat, putting his hands in wheat, sifting wheat through his fingers. He wants to do that with you, just play with you. You need to strengthen up, Peter. It's going to be all right if you don't fall for it. You're going to make some errors, you're going to make some mistakes, you're going to do some sinning, but you can come back and it's going to be all right. God will deal with us through affliction because sometimes that's the only way he can get through our hard heads and past our hard hearts.
Amen.
Look at verses 67 through 70. Before I was afflicted, I went astray. Before God did something to bring me back, to get my attention, what did I do? I went astray. But now I keep your word. That's after I was afflicted. You are good and do good. Teach me your statutes. The insolent smear me with lies. But with my whole heart, I keep your precepts. Their heart is unfeeling like fat, but I delight in your law. I love it. Their heart is unfeeling like fat. Can you imagine a fatty heart? I've heard of a fatty liver, you know. But imagine somebody whose heart is not muscle, it's just all fat. It's not going to do very much, is it? Now, of course, this is figurative language, right?
Amen.
But a heart that's good and strong and pumping and vital is it's a strong muscle. But theirs is unfeeling fat. Well, what does it have no feeling for? Look what David says, but I delight in your law. He had a feeling for God's law. He wanted to know what God wanted him to do. The communication is in the law. So, do not allow affliction to make you think wrong about God. God's doing this because God hates me. God's doing this because God's turned away from me. None of those things are the cases. It just doesn't work that way. Some people use affliction as an excuse to disbelieve and even have a grudge against God. Yeah, God did this, so therefore there can't be a God. Or I'm not going to believe in God because God allows this to happen. Well, David allowed the affliction to correct him and turn him back to God, not to drive him away from God. We probably all know people that will not believe in God because something bad happened in their lives. And they blame God for it instead of blaming the devil for it. Because the devil's the one who's behind all the bad things that happen. When things were going good, David sinned, right? Oh, David, it's going good. We're winning battles. We're doing all this. Hey, you know something? I don't even need to go out with my warriors. They're going over here to fight the Amalekites, right? Right? The Amalekites, let me see. I'm sorry, the Ammonites. They're going over here to fight the Ammonites. 2 Samuel chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. They're going to fight the Ammonites. I don't even have to go with them. Things are going so well. I'll just send my warriors over there. Yeah, and listen to this. In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to do battle, David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel. And they ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained at Jerusalem. It was a time when kings go out to do battle, and the king stayed home. And what happened? It happened late one afternoon when David arose from his couch and was walking on the roof of the king's house, that he saw from the roof a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful. And there started his trouble, wasn't it? He should have been out fighting the battle with leading his forces instead of staying home and getting in trouble. At that point, things start to turn bad, right? Yeah, things get bad. Well, we know the story, but then it gets even worse. The battle doesn't go so well. It's a standoff at best. He's trying to get things good there, get things good at home, and cover up things here. So what happens? He finally gets it that Uriah is killed. Bathsheba mourns. He comforts her. He marries her. You can only imagine what the people are saying, especially the people who know what had happened. You know, he did this on purpose. Well, he did do it on purpose, but not for that reason. You know what happens? The child dies. The child dies. And the whole nation mourns. The whole nation mourns because of David's sin. And David knows that he will have to answer God for all this. 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 23. Because all of a sudden, arrogant, cruel people start smearing David with lies. Not just the truth. The truth is bad enough, right? And even after he repents, they're not going to let it go. His enemies have something now to really keep going with and add more to it. You know, how do you make a mountain out of a molehill? Add dirt. Right? Add dirt. I saw something very interesting. You know, the people who supported Donald Trump in 2016 were called deplorable. Right? In 2017, they were called Russians. In 2018, they were called racists. In 2019, they're called white supremacists. So I wonder what they're going to be called next year when it's an election year. How far can they get in calling, adding dirt to make a mountain out of it? I don't even know if there was a molehill there. But look what they did with David. Continually smearing him. Because they hated him, because he was a man of God. He was a man of God who gave Satan an opportunity, gave him a foothold. Boy, did Satan take advantage of that. So even when he repents, that's going to follow David for the rest of his life. Verses 69 and 70, the insolent smear me with lies, but with my whole heart I keep your precepts. Their heart is unfeeling like fat, but I delight in your law. They don't care what they say. They don't care whether it's the truth or not. All they care about is what they can get out of it. They can get a little bit of power out of it. Hope with which to live as God's child, in spite of what he had done. Forgiven. He trusted in God's promises and therefore endured the enemy's insults. All this tells us this. Affliction can be good for us. Now, it doesn't say it is good for us. Affliction can be good for us. David said it was good for him. Look at verse 71. It is good for me that I was afflicted, that I might learn your statutes. That I be turned around, turn to you, God. Look even more intently into your law to find out what you wanted, or what you want from me, what you desire of me, what you want me to be. That was what the purpose of the affliction was. James encourages us to rejoice in affliction because it helps us to mature in faith. And researchers tell us that a lot of the problems that we have today with children with asthma, it seems like there's this explosion of asthma like there is with autism. You know, an explosion of asthma. Lots of kids have asthma today. And a lot of researchers say it's because parents are trying to keep their children from germs, especially when they're babies. And so they don't get, keep away from people that are not getting colds, not getting infections, they're not getting childhood diseases, so they're not building up resistances to certain diseases, plus they're not building tolerances within the body against such things. Now, that's what some researchers say. You may agree with it, you may not agree with it. But sometimes we overprotect others to the degree where we don't let them mature, can we say physically, to produce the immunities that it would take to make them stronger. And I wonder if sometimes that happens spiritually. That sometimes we don't ask of others to be spiritually strong and to take the afflictions and use them in the proper way. We might tell, don't worry about it, this will be okay, and that'll be okay, you're only human, everybody makes mistakes. The thing is, hey, just do the right thing, right? Do the right thing. Do what's right with God, and then everything will fall in place. Affliction builds character. Why do we have so many snowflakes today? School system. Can't insult anybody. Don't insult it. Don't put pressure on it. Don't demand anything of anybody. Don't tell anybody they're wrong. Don't hurt anybody's feelings. Yeah. Does that build character? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. What builds character is building people up to accept things, to change the things that need to be changed, to develop, to grow, to mature. And the same thing happens spiritually. Well, how do we know? How do we know that that's the case? How do we know? Why do we call the World War II generation the greatest generation? Now, look, I can agree somewhat, but I can disagree somewhat too. Because whether you believe it or not, it's the World War II generation that went to Europe, looked at socialism and brought it back with it. Brought a lot of it back with it. Look at what those people went through. They went through the stock market crash. They went through the Great Depression. They went through the Dust Bowl. They went through World War II. Think they were made stronger because of that? Yes, they were. What was their big mistake? tried to give everything to their kids, like me, that they didn't have. Instead of make us suffer a little bit of affliction, they gave us everything. You may disagree with that, but I think that's the truth. And we pass that on to our kids too. And some bad times are coming. Maybe a little bit of affliction would be good for us.
It is.
Look at that. Look at that. Okay. We're coming back. See, you pay attention to me now, won't you, Tara? We need a little thing. Conclusion. Verse 72, the law of your mouth is better to me than thousands of gold and silver pieces. Yeah, God's word is just something that money cannot buy. I don't know, I think the TV's off.
The TV's off.
Yeah, we'll just leave the TV off. Uh-oh. Hold that. Lost my conclusion. The world offers us treasure. The world offers us pleasure, right? But that's only for a season. We're going to be here a very short time on this earth. But God's got something a whole lot longer planned for us. It's called the rest of eternity. If you can say the rest of eternity, but it is eternity. There's no end to it. And we're going to spend somewhere that time period called eternity. The Christ brings us spiritual treasure, brings it into our lives. It's far more valuable than any treasure here on this earth. We just have to realize it. And once we begin to realize that, then we can really trust the fiction. The TV went off, and so we're leaving it off. Yeah. So we're leaving it off. So God's word is critical in all of this because Romans 10:17, just pretend it's up there. Okay? Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. That's where we get our instructions. Everything we need to know about God, everything we need to know about the Christian life, what we can do to please God. So let's learn to treasure God's word. That will lead us to a great spiritual treasure. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. The lesson is yours. If you have a need, please, as your question may know, as we stand and sing it in